changes to the existing reform, and how would you go about instituting them as mayor? Mr. Nemerson?
Well, I think that we have tried many things. I think we have started down the road to what could be a very interesting relationship between the unions, the city administration. We also have some of the finest charter schools in the country. And we also have a number of different magnet and regional schools. And yet, as I've said, there are a couple things that are missing. One is, as candidates, I think we have to be able to look at into the eyes of a mother with a child about to graduate from the New Haven school system and say that, honestly, that we believe that child is prepared to compete for any job in any community in at least North America. And that means people will be coming here from other places. So it really means in the whole world. And I don't think we can do that now. I've heard too many stories, even with all the efforts that we're going in, to all the different efforts, that people graduate from our schools, and an A in our schools doesn't necessarily mean that they can compete anywhere in the world. And so that's not good enough. So that's the standard, is accountability. The other thing is I think we should have a great lab school here, a high school which is the finest high school in the country that you have to test into. I don't think, and it should have different sort of criteria for different people in the community so that it actually reflects what New Haven looks like. But I think we should have a school that people want to move into New Haven to go to that will sort of be the beacon of the best schools in the state. And there are other communities that have done this and it's been very successful. So accountability and the best school in the state.
Mr. Keitazulu?
I think we need voc schools. I think we need to go in a new direction with high schools. I will build 2 high schools. I would like to turn Hill House High School into a voc school. I'd like to turn Strong School into a voc school and address those issues for the children who are not going to go to college, which we have too many of them, and keep the programs that we have already in place that are working. We got a lot of programs that are working in the city. We got a lot of programs that don't. But this city has not one voc school, period. You know, and I'd like to see 2 of them, just like Eli Whitney in Hampton. Start educating and going to small businesses and big business, finding out what skills do they need for these jobs. Start teaching, hiring, and setting up apprentice programs. Well, after school, when they get to the 12th grade, they get paid while they work, as they learn, after schools. And that's what I think we need to do in the city. Because one thing I found out about the city, this city is a great city, and everybody wants what's best for this city, but we're not addressing the main issue of getting people jobs within our school system, preparing them for the real world. The real world wants jobs, skilled workers. If they have to import 75,000 workers in this area, why can't we implement programs with our kids to get these jobs and make this city better?
Mr. Fernandez?
I have my wife and I have an 8-year-old in the New Haven Public Schools. One of the key reasons that I'm running is because I want to be held accountable as mayor for dramatically improving the educational outcomes for children in New Haven Public Schools. That, I believe, is an important role for the mayor, to work with the superintendent of schools to make that happen. New Haven has a groundbreaking union contract. The New Haven Teachers Union needs, I cannot say enough about the fact that they worked with the Board of Education to create a contract that allows for evaluation of teachers in an honest and fair way that really reflects the best of what we can be when we work together. If there was something, there are many things that I would do with regard to the schools, but with 30 seconds remaining, I'm going to highlight one: transparency. The ways in which we evaluate schools right now simply make it too difficult for anyone who doesn't have a PhD in education to figure out whether or not our schools are performing well. We need to make it much simpler. A, B, C, D for grading schools, and Y, so that parents could make good decisions. And it should no longer be the case that where you are in the lottery determines whether or not your child is going to succeed in school and go to college. That's immoral.
Representative Holder Winfield?
Thank you. education reform is important. I think that what we've done is a great step forward from where we were. The issues I have are that I think that we need to go to the foundation of the problems we have. Young people who come from urban environments, people who come from lesser economic means, come to school, we know this, the research shows us, with fewer words. Education reform doesn't deal with that. Education reform deals with what happens when buildings fail. Well, when buildings fail, young people have been failed by those buildings and the people in those buildings. We need to focus squarely on the gap in words that becomes the achievement gap that we talk about. We are not doing that. We need to focus on the trauma that young people in our city, in neighborhoods like mine and others, come to school with. That's a barrier for them in learning, and it's a barrier for other people who experience what they act out on. Latest research shows us that they don't just have post-traumatic stress disorder, they have complex post-traumatic stress disorder. There are particular ways you deal with that, and we haven't focused on that as the way that we want to deal with it. Listen, I grew up in a community where getting an education was a fight. I don't want education, the ability to get it, to be a fight for the children in the city or their parents. We need to focus squarely on what are the foundational issues, and then we can talk later about whether we turn around schools and do those things.
Alderman Elicker?